Well, hey guys, welcome to Hope Rescue Podcast. It's Kimberly and Tim Scott, and a very Merry Christmas to you. We are deeply now into the season, and if you don't know that for sure, show up at your local Costco.
Yeah. Oh, we went to Costco.
Oh
Well, that
my
was before
gosh.
Thanksgiving, though, huh?
No, but it really
It was-
starts at Thanksgiving, and it doesn't end. I
Yeah.
mean, it was chaos.
I want to go to Costco, but I don't want to fight the
I know.
the craziness.
So let me ask a question here to our
Why are we
audience.
promoting Costco?
Because they're
they
awesome.
They don't give us any.
They're awesome.
Show sponsorship.
And my brother used to work for Costco for years. But
So
I
there
have
it is.
I have a question. What I love about Costco is you can take anything back. And as long as you bought it with your card, it can be like 3 years later. I've never done that. I'm not that girl. But my brother who worked there told me people do it. So I appreciate that customer
You know what
service.
I found out?
What?
Anything you buy on Amazon, you can take that back.
Well, that's
you
true.
Can send
You're
it
an
back.
Amazon
and
guy.
they actually, I found I don't like shopping.
Yes.
And especially for Christmas. So I tell Kimberly, you pick out several things that you want and I'll order it.
And I'm not mad about that.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I don't give her everything she wants. I mean, you know.
I think the last thing you ordered for me was some special floss we like the best.
Babe, that was not for
Babe,
Christmas.
you shared it with me. No,
I
it wasn't
did.
a Christmas present.
Yeah,
I
that-
haven't given you anything because we're kind of
What'd
done.
you give her?
No, I haven't
You gave
given
her
I haven't
floss
given you
for
a
her Christmas present.
little stocking stuffer.
One year I gave her, as you've heard before, I
Oh.
gave her a blanket, a heat blanket, and she was like, "Really?" I mean, she's really grateful for everything, but this one was not. There wasn't a lot of gratitude.
No,
I'll just be
to
real.
qualify this,
But
it was
it's
in
the thing you used more than anything I've
true.
ever bought you.
The reason why I suffered some disappointment, it was in our first couple years of marriage, which you're still very romantic at that point. You know, you don't want Tupperware, you don't want household goods. That same year, I received some baking dishes. I received a floor, like one of those vacuum floor cleaners, which came from Costco, by the way. Not mad about that, but it felt like a very functional Christmas.
Hey,
So
I'll
when
give
you
you
throw
some-
onto that a heated blanket, it just didn't.
We were on
feel
a budget.
very-
We were on a budget, so I gave you some dish soap, some new spark plugs for the lawnmower, so you can get out there and
Babe,
do your job.
But here's what's funny.
Wait, what?
Here's what's funny. So we 2 years ago,
She's
though,
patting
went
me.
shopping.
Those of you who are just listening to
No,
this, she's patting me while she's talking
No,
to me.
I'm just telling you, this
Okay,
is how
here it
times
comes.
change because
Yeah.
we've been together now 17 years. But a couple years ago, you and I went shopping together to buy each other new fuzzy sheets for our bed. And
Oh my
we
gosh.
literally, it's our best thing.
I don't even know what they're made out of, but they're from heaven.
They are. And every night we get into bed, we're like, this is so cozy.
They're the best.
But speaking of yes.
Let's do a podcast and promote these sheets.
Yeah.
Like they're not even. They're like almost like a blanket. Almost.
It is It is like a microfiber blanket.
Oh
Yeah,
my
for
gosh,
the
it's
bottom
so
and
comfortable.
top.
I want to go to bed right now.
So
Wait a minute, we got a podcast to
We
do.
did make a change this year, a big family change. I was personally so nervous about engaging this conversation because you all know we have an extremely large family. We have
20 people for
seven kids
Thanksgiving.
with significant others, all of them, plus 8 grandchildren, and then we have in-laws, and because we're blended, we have in-laws on both sides and grandparents and stuff. So with the financial challenges and the market shifting and things, and we've had some changes in our life financially in the last year specifically, we had to have the conversation with our adult children about let's reframe what Christmas is. And what that really means is we're not going to be buying presents for adults anymore. It's going to be grandchildren only.
Yeah.
And of course, you can't not have grandkid gifts because that's the funnest part is watching kids open presents. And we have our grandkids in batches. We have the older ones, which are almost all of them in their teens. And then we have the younger 3 that are babies from 4 under. And so what's cool about the older ones is they like that money, that paper.
Yeah, you just give them some cash
you
and
just
they'll
get
leave
a
you
card
alone.
and cash, and they're like, "We love
It'll
you,
keep
Grandma
them
and
good
Grandpa."
for another year.
Yes,
Actually, and then you got birthdays. But anyway,
so
go
we
ahead.
had that conversation actually a few weeks ago, and it was so tremendously relieving because, to be honest with you, they all felt under the same burden, you
Yeah.
know? And so to take that off of the table for us, this has nothing to do with our podcast. This is for free. But I think we all felt just a sense of weight that was removed because we all financially, we've got kids who have just bought homes and they're trying to just make it, you know? And so this Christmas is really around the original idea of making it about Jesus and not opening
family.
And family, yeah.
And family.
So you're off the
And
hook
Santa
with the
Claus.
Amazon
Wait a
gifts,
minute, Santa
babe.
Claus
you,
in there?
You don't
No.
have to get me anything from Amazon. And
Oh, babe, I already know what I found out. Ronnie and I were talking. It's our son, our oldest son. And I said, I want this. And he goes, well, I thought you guys weren't giving each other presents for Christmas. I go, she is now, whether she knows it or not.
I'm
Amazon
buying you
click.
something.
Amazon click. It'll come in time for Christmas.
Okay, good to know. Good
No,
to know.
wait, I got something for you too.
Oh, right.
Yep.
Is it like one of those couples gifts?
It's like something for me
Exactly.
with your name on it. Anyway, all right. Hey, let's get into shame.
Yeah, let's get into it.
This podcast can get real here if we get into shame.
Yes.
So last time we were talking about how to rescue someone who has shame and how important it is to really understand how shame works. And here's the challenge of shame. There are three things. Number one is what I would call the path of guilt, and in contrast to the path of shame. So the path of guilt tends to lead to correction and resolution. So when you feel guilty, your path is you're moving toward. Now you can rebel against this too,
Of course,
but when
yeah.
you feel guilt, it tends to move us toward a correction in our life.
Ideally,
and for good
yes.
people,
Yeah.
for good people, and sometimes, and I've done it, where I feel guilty and I just kind of quash the guilt, but that's why guilt is there. That's the point of guilt.
Right.
It's the mission of guilt is to create this discomfort that causes us to go on a path to correcting our behavior and resolving our behavior.
Can I throw something in with
Sure.
that? What's interesting is an unresolved path through guilt does lead to shame.
Yeah, that's true.
So it guilt for a while is it's wired into us to trigger us for correction. But if you don't resolve that over time, it compiles and turns into shame.
Especially if that behavior, the guilt, the behavior that's driving the guilt continues and it gets exposed.
Right.
Once it's exposed, it automatically turns
Yeah.
to shame.
Yeah.
So that's that spotlight we were talking about last week. For those of you who did not catch last week's podcast, you need to go back. That was podcast is number 181. This is 182. So anyway, and the second thing is the path of shame. And there's no real mission of the path of shame, but I can tell you, inevitably, when you follow the path of shame, it leads us to self-destruction.
Yes.
It doesn't lead to resolution. So when you're dealing with people who have guilt and shame, it is really important for you to mitigate that shame the best you can so you can focus on the guilt, get to what was done wrong, not the feelings of I am worthless, I am wrong. Get to the I did something wrong.
Right.
And even with children, if you have young children,
Yeah, so good.
listen to this. You have got to make sure that the child does not identify themselves based on that behavior. Don't ever tell your children you're a bad child.
And don't ever tell your children, shame on you.
Yeah, shame on you. They don't even know what that means, but it begins to
Oh, they
develop
learn to live
an
it.
identity
Yeah.
of shame.
Yeah.
And so what I would say to them is what you did was a bad thing,
And there are
we're going to
consequences.
fix this,
Yeah.
and here's the consequences, and now we're not going to bring this up anymore. In fact, I told my oldest daughters, and the younger ones as well, in raising them, so all of our children, look, you've received the discipline on this. We're looking to the future for a different life. Let's forget that. I'm not going to bring it up anymore. So it's already been dealt with. And if I bring it up, you can tell me that's unfair. And, of course, that's happened a couple of times. And I said, well, that's unfair. I thought that was already dealt with. Now I feel shame. So I have to deal with that guilt and get back to where. But anyway, the path of guilt leads to correction and resolution. I mean, that's the mission of it. the path of shame almost always leads to self-destruction.
Right.
A pursuer then is should never use shame to correct, because this will inhibit change. So you will not be able to produce change. If you produce shame, they're going to move into self defense, and they're going to move into self-destruction, and you're not going to capture their heart and help them to feel safe. So don't shame people.
Right.
They already have enough of that.
Right.
So let's talk about this compass of shame, Kimberly.
Yeah, so
that
we
Dr.
talked
Nathanson.
about it last week. The author of the book that this came from is Dr. Nathanson's book on the compass of shame. So I encourage
it's
you
one
to.
section on
Right.
in the book. The book is.
Can't
I always
remember.
forget. Yeah, I just
okay.
just got the book about a month ago. Yeah. Anyway.
So in that book, Dr. Nathanson, in the concept of the compass of shame, says shame is a spotlight. And that's so true. Because when there's shame exposed, you feel, well, there's the perfect word, exposed. Like you're under the lights. You're bearing your raw emotions, your inner secrets, everything is exposed to anybody around. And what's interesting, it could be just one person and you feel that way, or it could be a group of people. It ignites the same reaction.
Yeah, and keep this in mind. It may be no one. No one may not. You just think people are
That's
looking
so
at
true.
you.
Yeah.
I've done things where I felt guilty, and then I walk in front of people in the next week or so, or day or so, or whatever, and that guilt is raw with me, and I think they see me differently.
Right.
They see me. I feel like I am messed up.
Right.
But the spotlight is when, whether real or perceived, is on you, on your weaknesses and your failures.
Right. So what he speaks about specifically, he calls the compass of shame. Imagine like an actual compass, north, south, east, west. There is 4 different points in this compass. But the point is that we all go different directions when we experience shame to escape that spotlight of shame in our life. And to escape the weakness, the failure, or the deficiencies that we feel. And shame attempts to change the view of an onlooking world. So we want to deflect somehow. And what we see as people, how they perceive us, we deflect in different directions. And all of them are unhealthy.
Yeah. So the compass is like this. The north. If you were to draw this, we have a drawing of this in front of us.
They'll be on the website, right?
No.
Nope.
Yes, it will.
Okay.
Yeah. No, it won't. It will now.
Yeah.
So the compass of shame is essentially where, if you look north, that and by the way, you're going to go one of these 4 directions. North is withdrawal. Now we'll explain each one of these. And when you think of looking north, to your east, so going to the right is you attack yourself, or south is avoidance. So we'll get into that, and then west is attacking others, or as he says, attack others. So when a shame event takes place, the spotlight is put on you. You either withdraw, you attack others, you attack yourself, or you avoid. And avoiding and withdrawing are different. So let me kind of get into some of these. The first one is withdrawal. And withdrawal is where we feel this, like people can see our weakness. So the natural defense mechanism is to be alone.
Isolation.
Right. Isolate
Yes.
yourself. So, and the problem with that, think about this. When you're alone, you're disconnected.
Right.
And the best place of healing is with a safe friend.
Right.
And when you isolate yourself from everyone, because you're afraid they see your imperfections, now these imperfections are being reinforced by this shame, because shame says, I'm bad.
Right.
I'm wrong. Not I did wrong. That's guilt. I am wrong. I am bad. I'm not worthy. So that withdrawal is based on the fact that we say, you know what, shame is right. I'm worthless.
And when you withdraw and you isolate, you have created around you this environment of shame. So that's who's hanging out with you is your shame, which only
That's
makes
your
it worse.
worst enemy.
Yeah, and instead of the connectedness to someone that's safe, you have made your worst enemy is your companion in that darkness.
Yeah.
And it's destruction.
Yeah, and think about how well you do. Maybe you're better than some, but how well you do when you're feeling guilty and you're feeling shame. How well do you do of your self-talk? What kind of happens? What are you saying to yourself about who you are
Right.
and where you fit in? My worst place to be when I'm feeling shame is by myself.
Right.
I need to be around an encourager, a loving, safe friend, an encourager. Every one of you, every one of us needs a safe friend, and it can be your spouse. And, it can be a friend. It can be a counselor. It could be a pastor.
A group of friends.
It could be a
you
group
know?
of friends.
It could be a
Usually,
community.
usually when it's shame, it is best when it is one person.
Yeah.
The more people that are involved in this, the more difficult it is. And sometimes you will say, okay, I feel like I need to expose this to feel better, to get closure of this in my life. And actually, you might make it worse. So you got to be very careful. It needs to be a safe place
Right.
where you share. Don't get up and say, I had this sexual problem, or I had this financial problem, or I had this or that, or
Right.
because you could increase the shame. So, all right, what's the second one? So withdrawal is the first one.
Yeah. So the second would be to attack yourself, like you just said. Actually, it's the self-talk. It's the, tearing yourself down, reducing yourself, saying, I am unworthy, I am wrong. And I would say, I don't know anybody that wouldn't go this direction when you have experienced shame. There is the humanity side of us leans towards negative self-talk. We just do. And very few people become their own cheerleaders, right? Now scripture...
There's a few psychopaths out there that have self-talk. I am the greatest. Yeah, you megalomania.
I was going to say narcissists who believe their own lies. But for the most part, that's why it's so important to not receive that message of shame, which is I am unworthy and I am wrong, and to connect yourself to somebody else who says, no, that action was wrong, but you are a person of value.
You know that song, that worship song, Who He Says I Am? What is that song?
I am who he says he is.
I am who He says I am. Think about that. Are you who you say you are?
Right.
Or who your shamers say you are? Are you who God says? So for example, let's say that you got involved in substance abuse. The world says you need, in order to break the bondage of that, you have to make sure that you're not in denial. So the way you do that is say, I'm a drug addict.
Right.
Or I'm an alcoholic.
Connect your identity to your failure.
To your greatest failure.
Right.
Let's be honest. So whereas Scripture says, no, you're a child of God,
right.
and you're struggling with alcohol or drugs or whatever it is. So don't identify yourself on your failure, but what we would encourage you to do is reinforce who you are. So get your mind and heart in the Word of God,
right.
and that exposes who you are. You are my child. You are a saint.
You are
loved,
yes.
and so forth. And then say, well, I have this area that I'm struggling with. It's sin, or it's this, or it's that. And own that and make changes there, but don't wrap your identity in your failures. All right.
Yeah, so good.
So the third one is avoidance. So first we withdraw, or not first, but one way is we withdraw or we attack self. Here's another one. One of the four, third of the four, is avoidance. So what we do in avoidance, and we were just talking about substance abuse, in avoidance, what we do is we say, you know what? The message of shame is wrong. I reject the message of shame. Now, deep down, we believe it's right, but we reject it. And the way we reject it is to take our attention off of it by drinking excessively, by maybe eating disorders, compulsive exercise,
we distract
substance
ourselves.
abuse, alcoholism. We use things to be an anesthetic
Right,
to our shame.
which are self-destructive and drive the shame even deeper.
And think about what happens after you're done with that. You feel more shame.
Right.
So it
exactly.
doesn't work.
Yeah.
So, by the way, we're going to go into the fourth one. Kimberly's going to share that. But when you think about this, think about the fact that all of these can be a reality in your life. Withdrawal, avoidance,
Right.
attack self, attack others. You could be doing all of those things when the spotlight of shame hits you. You could be, running away from that spotlight in all of these ways. But we usually tend towards our path.
Right.
So what's the fourth?
Whatever that looks like. And you just mentioned it. The fourth is attacking others, which is the ultimate deflection. All of that list of 4 things, I was just thinking how, we've only been talking about how it affects you, but truthfully, anybody in your world that you love that is close to you, each one of those has an impact on the people in your circle around you. This one has the most toxic impact, and that is to attack those people around you, where you reduce them, you tear them down. Oftentimes it can play out with domestic violence, in anger, and bullying, potentially destruction of property. That can play out sometimes with graffiti and vandalism, other lists of things. But I think what is most dangerous is our words. In our self-loathing, when you are buried in shame, we use our words to attack those people around us, and that is it's like dropping bombs that you walk away from. And the people who are there in your life and in your world that either God has called you to, that you are maybe responsible for, or to, you are not just in the middle of self-destruction, you're in the middle of basically blowing up your life.
Yeah, and think about what you're doing. This is a convoluted way to make us feel better about our guilt and shame,
Right.
especially our shame, is we reduce others, we reduce our world, maybe we vandalize property or graffiti, or those are all shame-based.
Right.
And the domestic violence, I'm going to attack my children or my spouse, blaming others, attacking others, attacking people that confronted you.
Right.
You're the problem.
Right.
So it's like
Gaslighting.
I mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
the spotlight comes on, so we throw a rock at the spotlight,
Right.
which is a person, and we try to reduce or mitigate our feelings of shame in a very convoluted and unhealthy way of reducing others. It's a very strange thing. When we
Yes.
try to reduce others, it doesn't increase us.
What you're trying to do is to bring you to the same level,
Right.
and so that you don't feel so low,
Right.
and bring them down to your level to try to balance that out. And it's so unhealthy.
So, look, we're out of time, but next time we're going to talk about kind of the genesis of shame, where it started.
Yeah.
It started with
Literally in Genesis.
the first humans.
Yeah.
It started there. So we'll talk about Adam and Eve and how shame developed, how it was manifest, and then you'll see the genius of God's dealing with them to mitigate their shame in a spiritual way. And we can learn from how he dealt with them. We can learn to deal with other people
so
from
good.
out watching how God does it. So we'll do that next time. But listen, we got to be clear here. We're going to be on a break for 3 weeks. And the reason we're doing that is because we're all on a holiday.
Because you're going to be on a break.
And you're going to be on a break, whether you know it or not. And let's see, we're going to be off the 19th, the 26th, and
through the first of the year. We'll be back on the first Monday.
The second Monday of January.
Oh, gotcha. That's right, because that's the New Year day.
2023. So we will be back on January 9th. So we will be out the 19th and 26th of December and January 2nd. We hope you have a great holiday. Once again, let me just share with you that we do have a shortfall for our budget, and we need to make up that shortfall. It's several $1,000s behind. And if you can help, we would appreciate your help at hoperescue.org. Go there. You'll see a button where you can give, and you can help us to go through 2023. We finished this year. Lord was faithful through many of you and through special gifts. And as we look to 2023, we do need your help. And those of you who have been giving, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Yes.
You have been such a blessing to us. And we hope that you know that we love you and appreciate
Can I just
you trusting
say
us.
something really fast? Many of you don't know, and this she would be embarrassed for us to say this, but we have had a producer since we started day one,
Right.
who has faithfully served, created our websites, and has I'm going to get choked up thinking about it, but has so faithfully served this ministry, and because of our financial shortfalls, she willingly stepped down and has been volunteering her time. And so when
Doing the same thing she was doing
the same
before.
thing and has been doing it now for, I don't know, months, but we would love to change that for her going into the next year. And so just so you know, there's a great team behind this, and most of the team is volunteering.
Yeah, everybody.
And, everybody's
Yeah.
doing their part, but we
Yeah.
would love to be able to just honor her and be able to put her back
Yeah.
in that place. So thank you so much for your generosity. We don't like to talk about money. It's never been our heart. but-
we're not comfortable with it,
Yeah.
but we could use your help, and the Lord provides in the way. We will adjust things if we have to, but we've already adjusted so much. But if God lays it on your heart to give, we would appreciate it so much. God bless you. Have a great holiday. We'll see you in January. January 9th, we'll be back with concluding in several weeks our series on shame. God bless you, and visit us at hoperescue.org.
Bye, guys.
Bye.